All right. Okay, good evening everybody and welcome back yet again to Walks in Wall Street. It is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. It's about 9:06 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are reporting live from Midtown Manhattan. It's a beautiful night. It's a little bit humid, but thank God it is no longer raining. It was pouring pretty much all week. Yesterday, thank God, once we started the live stream, the rain sort of held up, but it was humid. We are on New York City's 56th Street, very close to New York City's Billionaires Row. And on today's live stream, we're going to be walking all the way down to Soho. Yeah, yet again, we got to go to Soho because, guys, I actually have to do some work. Can you believe that? So if you don't mind, I'll sort of show the camera real quick. In this box, it's not a box, it's a cylinder. In this cylinder holds a sign that I forgot to put up today at one of our newest listings, and I got to do it tonight because we have an open house tomorrow. So I do apologize. I have to work while we're streaming. So we're going to go to 74 Grand Street tonight and put up this sign. Yeah. All right. It's going to be a big day tomorrow. Okay, today is the day, all kidding aside, all jokes aside, tomorrow is the day. For those of you who don't know, tomorrow is Inflation Day. This is when the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release the CPI report. Now, if you want to know exactly when this report is going to be released, well, it's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. And it is expected to show headline inflation of 3.6%. That would be an acceleration from July's 3.2% annual gain in prices. Now, this is obviously according to estimates from many of the economists out there, but over the prior month, consumer prices are expected to have risen 0.6% in August. That's a month-over-month basis. That would be a faster clip than July's 0.2% month-over-month increase. Now, what can we attribute this to? Well, if you've been following the live stream and been paying attention to commodities prices, we could look to crude oil. And let's do that now. If you look at futures, my internet is absolutely so piss poor. I'm not sure if any of you run into this issue. I always use up my hotspot. So like my 4G LTE hotspot, I always use it up. So I'm getting like 3G speeds for the hotspot, and I'm using that for the computer. So the computer's been loading like dial-up broadband. Anyway, crude oil is back at $86 a barrel, which means energy prices are on the rise yet again in the United States. And many Americans are feeling the pressure yet again at the pump. So I would probably go out on a limb and estimate that we're probably going to see a little bit of an uptick in the CPI number tomorrow, particularly as it relates to energy prices. Now, if we think about the Federal Reserve and why the CPI report is so important, we could look to core CPI. Now, core CPI excludes volatile food and energy prices. So again, if you strip out energy, if you strip out food, that is the number that the Federal Reserve looks to the most, particularly because they think that these are two very volatile categories that tend to fluctuate over time due to many different economic circumstances. So they set monetary policy, right? If you think about the Federal Reserve, they really pull the levers on the economy in two ways. Number one, by setting the short-term lending rate or interest rates, right? The Federal Reserve has raised rates over 10 consecutive times, and the current Fed funds rate as of doing this video is 5.25% to 5.5%. So that's one way. Number two is by adjusting their balance sheet. So the Federal Reserve has a balance sheet in order to provide liquidity to the market. And they do this by either buying U.S. Treasuries or mortgage-backed securities. And if you go to the St. Louis Fed's website right now, if you just Google search St. Louis Fed balance sheet, you can see an interactive infographic of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, and you'll notice something very key and clear here. Over the past 6 months, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet has actually been declining. They have been letting assets roll off the balance sheet because essentially, if you think about how bonds work, right, it's a very, very simple review. There's an inverse correlation between prices and yields. So if the Federal Reserve continues to purchase treasuries, to purchase mortgage-backed securities, that essentially puts a little bit of a bid under the market, right? So if you constantly have a buyer, well, you're going to have a little bit of suppressed yields. And as we've seen rates move up here, the Fed is not in a quantitative easing cycle. They are in a quantitative tightening cycle. So they are raising interest rates and they are letting the assets roll off the balance sheet. So we'll talk about the inflation report that's coming up tomorrow. Again, that is going to drop at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. If you look in the chat, I'm going to drop the link that will direct you right to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. So if you want to look at that link, save it for tomorrow, refresh it at 8:30 a.m., and you will literally be the first ones to see the CPI report. We do have to move on and talk about another major central bank globally. Oftentimes on the stream, we'll talk about the Federal Reserve, mainly because that's the U.S. central bank. But for tomorrow, we have to talk about the ECB, or the European Central Bank. Christine Lagarde is you should say the supreme leader of the ECB. I'm sort of being a little bit facetious there, but on Thursday, it's very important to pay attention. Thursday is when we will be hearing from the European Central Bank and Christine Lagarde as they set the pace for monetary policy going forward. So keep that in mind. I think the ECB is going to be watching what inflation rates are in the United States, and I also think they'll be waiting to see if the Fed chair or any other Fed presidents in the United States make any comments about inflation, because usually what happens is the majority of central banks globally will follow the lead of the Federal Reserve, right? So if the Fed raises interest rates, chances are there's going to be a higher probability that all of the rest of the global central banks will follow suit. Really, exclusion of maybe the Bank of Japan. But that's a conversation for another night. All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and close up the laptop here. Let me pack up all my stuff. I'll say hello to everybody in the chat, and we will get started. Hopefully you all had a fantastic Tuesday today. And, yeah, hopefully your night's going well. So give me one moment. Now, we haven't even begun tonight's live stream. We're about 10 minutes in, and I already can't wait until tomorrow night's live stream because I'm so excited to see if some of our predictions about inflation have come true. Now, we know we've been talking about shelter costs. That's really the main category of inflation that I'm going to be looking at tomorrow because, as we know, shelter and real estate prices have the most lagged effect. The less liquid the asset class is, usually that's going to be your laggard, right? Equities are very liquid, so they reprice to the interest rate environment fairly quick. All right, we are looking at the gorgeous 432 Park Avenue right here on New York City's Billionaires Row. I just got out of the office. It's been a very busy day. Right on Madison Avenue. We are walking past the Trump Tower. So let me say hello to everybody here. Let me scroll to the top of the chat, because that's the most important part of the stream, guys. It's the most important part. Hey, the gamer world is here. What's up? Shannon says, hey Tom, good to see you. Austin City Limits, Brian, British. I have Joe Ratz, Michelle Henry, Patricia Ivory, Danielle, welcome. Alice Woodward, always a pleasure to see you here. A-Scan is here, welcome. Joshua, Connie, Spencer, Steph UF, Golden City, Dutchman, Richard Vogel. We got a full house here early, wow. Ben, what's up? Natasha P, Maria S says hello, Tom, and everybody in the chat. It's good to see all of you. Ella May, welcome. JC, hope you're well. All right, let me get situated here. We are walking directly past the Trump Tower. This is the residential side. As we come up to Fifth Avenue, you'll see where the main commercial side is for the office as well as the retail. It's one of my favorite parts, really one of my favorite neighborhoods in Manhattan to walk, especially at night. Now, in the distance, you can see the skinniest residential apartment building in the entire world, and that is the Steinway Tower, which sits right there. Limitless NYC, what's up? Good to see you, Limitless NYC. Yeah, JC, we have to talk about the new iPhone release today. We will definitely do that. John is here, Josie, Hawaii, what's up? Hey, Emmanuel says, what about the real estate videos, Tom? Are you uploading? We are. Laura M says, hey, Tom, happy Tuesday. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Michael Joseph says, Tom, watching while working at my desk. Inflation info this week. Yeah, so we get it tomorrow at 8:30. I guess we'll just jump right into it because it may be a short live stream tonight. We're coming up on the corner of East 58th Street and 5th Avenue here in Midtown Manhattan. We're gonna head southbound on 5th all the way down past Koreatown, past the Empire State Building, where we will reach our final destination, which is going to be Soho. This is facing northbound on 5th Avenue, looking all the way at the Bergdorf Building, as well as the brand new Tiffany & Co. and the Sherry Netherland, and believe it or not, the Apple Store, which we had some big news coming out of Tim Cook's company today. Steph UF says, does that tower sway in the wind? All of them do. So all of the major buildings on Billionaires Row are designed to have a little bit of a leeway there. And at the top, it's really an amazing feat of engineering. So in every single one of the super talls on Billionaires Row, you have something called a damper. And the dampers are these literally like massive, they weigh tons and tons and tons. And it acts as a counterweight. So for example, if the building is swaying to the right, you know, the damper that sits at the very top of these buildings will act as a counterweight, and it'll prevent the building from falling over. They have one at Central Park Tower, 432 Park Avenue, the Steinway Building, pretty much all the megatalls that you see. I believe Architectural Digest YouTube channel did a really good video explaining exactly how that damper works. I would check it out. It's really cool. Very, very cool. Let me make sure we're streaming in 1080p. Hey, Daryl is here. Says, good evening, Tom, from Chicago, Illinois. Hey, Daryl, good to see you. Sunshine after rain. Connie says, Tom, how tall are you? We are just a fraction above 5'5". So just, I usually like to tell everybody I'm 5'6", but that's kind of my ego getting to me, but no, we're 5'5". All right, we got to jump right into it. So tomorrow is the big inflation day, right? Very important, and I think it's going to set the tone for monetary policy, or I should say the next monetary policy decision from the Federal Reserve. This is the University Club in front of us. Now, I think we're going to see two things happen here in this inflation report. This is going to be my prediction. It doesn't mean I'm right. I could be totally wrong. We'll find out tomorrow at 8:30. I think we're going to see shelter costs come down a little bit. I believe this will be the fourth consecutive month where we are going to see shelter costs come down. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, and again, this is just an anecdote, that's really what I'm seeing on the ground floor here in New York. You're not only seeing the rental market soften materially here, but you're seeing transaction volume really dry up. So deals are not getting done, and I believe a lot of property is still priced top tick, if you will. Now, the number one reason why real estate doesn't sell is because it's mispriced. It's priced too high. And as we reviewed on last night's live stream, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage as it stands right now is about 7.6% on a 30-year fixed. Now, if that's the average, that means depending on the credit worthiness of the individual or the customer, many people are actually getting quoted 8% or maybe even a little bit more than 8% money right now. Real quick, this is St. Thomas Church. One of my favorite places in the city is right here. St. Thomas Church has absolutely beautiful architecture. It's just an amazing place. Very peaceful place. So I love it. Now, with that being said, right, with money being more expensive, we have yet to see prices adjust for that rate environment. We've seen it happen on the equities side, right, particularly a lot of these high beta, very frothy SaaS companies, right, that were trading at ridiculous multiples of price to sales and price to earnings. We've seen extreme multiple compression there, and we've seen valuations come down. Not the same in the real estate market. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but that is due to liquidity. Real estate always has the most lagged effect as it relates to its reaction to rising interest rates, which I think this is going to be a good thing, right? Now, no, I'm not calling for a big Armageddon crash like 2008. No, but you're going to have a cooling of prices, and you're going to have things come back down to normal. I mean, think about it. It has to. Just do the math. A $450,000 starter home, individuals who are putting 20% down on that deal in 2021 could leverage out about 80% of the deal at 3.5%. You know, just doing back of the napkin math here, that would mean your monthly payment would roughly be around $2,000, right? Fast forward to today, that same property, right, this hypothetical property that we're talking about, $450,000, you put down 20%, you take on 80% leverage, but it's 7.5% or 8% money. Whoa, what does that do to the monthly payment? That doubles it. That's almost like a $3,800 to $4,000 monthly payment. So not a lot of people can afford this. And it actually turns the equation, right, upside down to say, well, one of the most attractive things to purchasing real estate is that in general, right, which is what you should be looking for, is that your monthly payment will be less than the rent. But now, in most cases in the city, and I would assume many places across the country, it's cheaper to rent. So it's just going to be an adjustment period. Now, there's still good deals out there to be had. But I think we're going to get a little bit of adjustment. So that is my one major prediction for tomorrow. Again, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The Bureau of Labor Statistics will be releasing the CPI numbers, and I think we're going to have shelter costs come down a little bit. And prediction number 2 is that energy costs are going to increase a little bit, particularly as it relates to gas prices. Hey, D is here. What's up? Good to see you. Sorry, I'm holding this sign here, so it's hard for me to maneuver. We are now walking directly past the St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is beautiful. We'll let this guy go ahead. Hey, Joe Driver, what's up? Nako says there will be a correction in housing values, but not a huge shift as long as the supply remains low. I definitely would agree with that. Usernames, schmoosernames is how about food prices? What are your predictions for that? Well, I mean, I guess I'll just audit my day-to-day life. You know what I've noticed? And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Have food prices materially gone down for you at all? I mean, has it moved the needle like even a little bit? For me, I've noticed when I'm in New York and I'm eating out, food is more expensive than in Miami. Now, if you're in downtown Miami or Brickell, then it's probably going to be about the same. But you know, if you go to regular suburban Miami, everything is like $2 or $3 cheaper in Miami comparing it to New York. And I've noticed prices go up here, even for some of my favorite spots. Atomic Punk NYC says no. Connie says no, prices are so high here near Seattle. Nako says no, food prices are still high near me. Mark says yes, about $50 a week. Wow. GGNYC says even with great value, it's going up. It's very, very hard to save. Yeah, so great value is the Walmart brands, I believe, right? Now, GGNYC brings up a good point there. Did you all know that Walmart has higher gross margins on their store branded products as opposed to the name brand, right? Stuff that you see from General Mills, Procter & Gamble. So when people are trading down, right? When we have individuals trading down from the name brand to the store brand, that kind of helps Walmart because there's higher margins on those products. We are outside Saks Fifth Avenue, and look at that. All the way in the distance, you could see the Empire State Building lit up in green tonight. Looks like they're doing some work on the side of Saks Fifth Avenue. Hey, Destructionist, long time no see. It's always a pleasure to see you here, Destructionist. Leonard says prices are ridiculous here in Pennsylvania. Chinook Wins says, Tom, food is up 10 to 12% over the last year here in Vancouver. Interesting. All right, let's cross. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me that I notice, and whenever I'm in Miami, I actually go food shopping. When I'm in New York, I don't have time, so I'm always eating out. And I've said this before, my typical lunch spots in Manhattan that used to be anywhere between 12 or 15 bucks are now 20 bucks, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I used to go to these same spots all the time. You'd pay $12 to $15, that's including the tax, and now everything is either 18 to 20 bucks with the tax, more if you want to include a tip. I mean, you're looking at, $25 for lunch. That's a little bit ridiculous, and that's where things are going. So I have noticed for like produce and red meat, I have noticed prices go down a little bit there, particularly in Miami, but I've noticed the quality of the meat is not good. I don't know why. Hey, Addie Lulu's, is VMAs are there tonight? Big crowd? VMAs, what is that? VMAs. Oh, Fashion Week, right? Yeah, New York. So the last day of New York City Fashion Week is tomorrow. Wednesday is the last day of New York City Fashion Week. So we're going to go to Soho tonight, and it's going to be very crowded. So I'm excited for that. Today was very busy in Soho. Tomorrow, if anybody is in the city and you want to come by, 74 Grand Street, I will be there hosting an open house at one of our listings. Come by, check it out if you want. Wow, Alice is a gallon of gas is almost $4. Yikes. Susanna Q4, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Tariq Khan says, Tom, I almost never look at... hold on, my chat is messed up tonight. Tariq Khan, what's up? Says, I almost never look at the price for food, but was slightly surprised at the cost of a small bag of Doritos chips at $2.50. It used to be 50 cents. You know, Tariq, you make a really good point. And this isn't to sound arrogant or anything. Real quick, we are at the New York City's Diamond District now. You can always tell you're at the Diamond District, obviously if you're on 47th Street, but if you look up and you see these diamond-themed street lights, you know you're in New York City's Diamond District. But, you know, again, not to sound arrogant, but I never used to look at the prices of food when I would go to the grocery store and get a few things. And the reason why I say that is because I have a rough idea in my mind of what the food price is going to come out to be. More specifically, I almost never looked at the price when I would go to, you know, the local food shops, the corner store, the bodega, and you want to get some lunch when you're leaving the office. Because I always knew, okay, I'm going to leave the office and I'm going to spend $15 on lunch. But now it's almost like a little bit of sticker shock. Like I walk out of the Whole Foods, I walk out of, you know, Key Food or whatever, and I'm like, whoa, that was $75? I'm like, what did I even buy? I've had that many times. You know, so much so, I started a little bit of sort of like a fun little game on Twitter of guess that price. Because it seems as if every time I walk into a grocery store, and you know, you need to get a few things. Before, it used to be, oh, I got to go to the grocery store to get a few things. It's going to be at max $15 to $20. Now, when you go to get a few things, it's like $45, it seems. And then you look in the cart and it's like, wait, what in the hell did I buy? Anybody else experienced that phenomenon recently or sort of knows what I'm talking about? It can't just be me, right? Now again, it's not to say, oh, I'm so arrogant where, you know, I have so much money, I don't even need to look at the prices. No, it's that I know things are generally going to cost $15 to $20. So I don't need to like spot check everything. But now, everything is like ridiculous. Hey, Tony Pagan, what's up? Good to see you. Bree Graham says I spent like $300 every month on groceries. Destructionist says you used to be able to fill a cart for $100. Now you can fill a bag for $50. Hey, the investigator, what's up? Pam B says no, it's not just you. Grocery prices are definitely ridiculous. The most ridiculous and outlandish thing I've seen to date is the following. Now keep in mind, to be fair, this was in a CVS pharmacy in Manhattan. And if you buy anything at a CVS in Manhattan, it's almost 9 times out of 10 going to be at least 50% higher in the prices. But for a regular box of cereal, a regular box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, it was over. Whoa.
More time! You will die!
He's upset at the Best Buy guy. I don't even know what I was even talking about now. Oh yeah, the price was over $12 for a single box of cereal. Isn't that nuts? Now, if you go to the Trader Joe's, or if you go to a regular grocery store, it's probably going to be about $1 or $2 less than that. But, I mean, think about, you know, if you're a parent, you're coming home from work, all the grocery stores are closed, and you just need to pop into a drugstore real quick. I mean, if you need to buy like 2 boxes of cereal, it's going to cost you $20 now. It's nuts. It's insane. I know, AUS Fly Girl, that freaked me out too. The guy was right in my ear. I thought he was coming at me, but he was coming at the Best Buy guy. Maybe they're having a little bit of a feud. Anyway. All right, 42nd Street and 5th Avenue. We are now approaching the very famous and very beautiful New York Public Library, the Stephen Schwarzman building, right on the corner here. Hey, Teresa Diaz, thank you for joining us. Gary Carpenter says, I quit eating cereal a long time ago. Yeah, very seldom do I eat cereal, but you know, if you're on the go, you're coming home late and you're like, okay, what can I make that I don't have to, you know, cook? And just scanning the aisles, I'm like, is this really what people pay now? $12 for a box of cereal? It's nuts. Okay, we will quickly pull off to the side to check out the iconic Chrysler building in the distance and the beautiful One Vanderbilt. Oh, cool. Mark says, hey, all currently staying on West 28th Street and walked past there about an hour ago. Awesome, Mark. How long are you going to be in the city for? Hopefully you're enjoying your trip. Now, I want to say one more thing, not to sort of hammer on the food prices and the cereal, but it is inflation day tomorrow. Here's my main concern with all of this. I believe this could quite possibly be the final nail in the coffin for a lot of the small mom and pop shop bodegas and corner stores. And let me tell you why. When you go into, and I've been noticing this now, right? Especially on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I live near a lot of, you know, original New York bodegas and corner stores. I can't even go there anymore. I can't. It doesn't make financial sense to go there. You know, you have a gallon of milk, almost $8 if you go there. Paper towels there, you know, are over $10. And I know the small mom and pop bodega owners need to put the prices there to make money, but it's gotten so overwhelming to the point where it's like, it's not worth it to quickly run to the corner store at the local mom and pop drugstore or the local mom and pop bodega anymore, because it's just like cartoonishly ridiculous in terms of the price. You know, if you get paper towels, if you get a box of tissues, you get a gallon of milk, and oh, here's a real kicker. A gallon of water in some of these New York City bodegas are almost $6 with the tax. I bought a gallon of water, and with the tax, it comes out to like $6. It's not, and again, don't want it to come off as a complaint, but the rents are extremely high for these small mom and pop shop owners, right? That's number one. And the goods prices, the wholesale prices have gone up. So in order for them to make a couple bucks on the deal, they need to raise their prices. Additionally, not only have the rental prices and the wholesale prices gone up for these mom and pop bodega owners, but also the credit card transactional costs have gone up. So they have to pass that cost on to the customers, which would be us. So this is essentially leaving big corporate America, like the Walmarts of the world, the Targets, you know, the big box retailers, in a position where, you know, people are just going to wait it out and just go there or shop on Amazon. because not only is it going to be cheaper on Amazon, but a guy is going to come to my front door and literally drop it off at my footsteps. So I don't know, anybody have any thoughts on that? Disagreements, agreements, or just any comments in general? Any thoughts? As we're doing that, we'll quickly take a peek at what Fifth Avenue looks like headed to the north. Hey, Joel PM says I have almost free water that comes out of my wall. Yeah, New York City does have some of the cleanest tap water, but in some parts, let's just say, yikes. Wow, AUS Fly Girl says a box of dishwasher detergent was $20. Yeah, Destructionist, everything is very daunting cost. Susanna Q4. Deborah says not in the bodegas in Brooklyn, New York. Are you talking about Manhattan bodegas? I'm not paying those prices. Yeah, I'm talking about the ones in Manhattan, particularly Upper West Side. So Deborah, what sort of prices are you paying at the bodegas in Brooklyn? Please share in the comments, please, please. Mark says, can you advise why the Empire State Building is green tonight? I cannot advise. I actually don't know. Maybe somebody could look it up while we're doing the stream. I'm actually curious about that as well. So if anybody wants to look up why the Empire State Building is lit up in green and share that in the chat, I think that'd be great. Hey, OF says rural areas have gas plus $6 a gallon. Interesting. Yeah, Rick says Amazon is the best deal in town now. It kind of is, because those big companies can afford to subsidize and take a little bit of a loss. So the delivery for Amazon, like the Amazon Fresh, that's all a loss leader. I'm sure all of you have heard of the terminology in business, your loss leader, right? So you lose a little bit of money up front to provide customers with a good service in hopes that they stay with you as a loyal customer and buy products that are going to make you a lot of money. Hey, Michael J says the official Empire State Building website has signature white on the calendar for tonight. Interesting. Hey, Ethan R says, Tom, the CPI estimates are not remotely accurate as they exclude major cost items and housing costs are skewed down for rent estimates as well. Now that's true, and I would generally agree with you. I always advise to calculate your personal CPI. I think many of you have heard me say that multiple times on the stream. I would argue that if everybody went and did a calculation on their personal inflation rate, it is much, much higher than the headline CPI. Now let me give you an example. Calculate what you spent per month on groceries in August of 2023 and calculate what you spent in August in 2022. Take your flight costs if you travel a lot. What were you spending on airfare in August of 2022 and compare it to this August, right? Now for me, it's just ridiculous. I mean, if you want to take the category of just airfare alone, my personal inflation rate for airfare is well over 100%. Well exceeding 100%. Now, thankfully, I own property, so knock on wood, I didn't have any major expenses. I've actually been able to raise rents, so my costs are pretty fixed there. But that's a good exercise to do. Calculate your personal inflation rate. What do you spend money on, right? Maybe you have kids. How much was the kids' ballet classes last year, and what are they this year? How much was the soccer club that you paid for last year, and how much is it this year? I would bet anything that your inflation rate is probably going to be more than 3.5%. Just taking a little bit of a stab at it, but this is a really nice 5-star hotel. Hey Jorge, this is Tom, retired and living on Social Security, which accounts for half my expenses. The prices, I hear living in New York would be very, very ridiculous. That is also true. And that's what really scares me, is essentially people living on fixed incomes and they have no means of making more money. So your income stays fixed, right, if you're living off of Social Security, but the cost of everything is going up. Now the good news is, right, not to harp on all the negatives, the streams tend to be a little bit more negative around the CPI report, but on a little bit of a positive note, as we look at the Empire State Building here, at least savers are being rewarded again in America. Look at what the average money market is yielding right now. Look at where US Treasuries are yielding. It's almost 5.5% fixed risk-free rate of return on a 1-year US Treasury, give or take, depending on the day. I think a 1-year Treasury is yielding just under 5.5%. If you have $1 million, that's what, $55,000 a year income, risk-free, right? No volatility risk, no nothing. Now, again, technically, there is risk with anything, but the U.S. has never defaulted on its debt obligations, as to why we call it risk-free. So, looking on the brighter side of things, at least savers are being rewarded and there's a little bit higher yield, where people are actually making money in their savings accounts again. Hey, Lockjaw's here. Good to see you. Hawaii is joining us. What's up? Yeah, imagine if you are let's just play this scenario through, right? Let's say if you are, in the lower end of the high net worth individual range, right? You have about, let's just say, 10 million liquid, and you're sick of looking at all the volatility in the stock market. You've been through the COVID crash, you've been through the 2018 big volatility moment there, and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to take half of what I got, half of my liquidity, and just buy US Treasuries and just live off that income. With $5 million, you could totally do that. Just do the math. Unless you're, some big, Great Gatsby guy or something like that. I think the majority of us can live off of 5.5% on $5 million. That's pretty good. So, for some people out there who may have a little bit of liquidity and they don't want to have to deal with the stress, and they still have a lot of those, let's just say, post-traumatic stress from the big volatility moment we had with the big C, I think that's a real option for some people now. This is such a unique angle of the Empire State Building. So we're headed towards Koreatown. This is 34th Street. We are looking towards the east side of Manhattan. This is the M34 bus service that's going to take you cross town. So we are now crossing southbound on 34th Street. To the right, we have the Empire State Building, and in the basement, we have one of the flagship Starbucks locations, which I believe are called the Reserve Roastery stores. Michael Joseph's money markets can and withdraw monthly if they need to, are yielding over 5% as well. Yeah, so, to sort of play devil's advocate, not to be all doom and gloom, because, every time we talk about inflation, it is kind of doom and gloom. But the reality is the headline CPI number is coming down. Savers are being rewarded again. And, if we want to expand the conversation, okay, let's just say if inflation comes in hot tomorrow, we're going to know in about a couple hours here. It drops at 8:30 in the morning. If inflation comes in hotter than expected, which it actually may, because look at crude oil. Take a look at crude oil futures. I think we're trading at a couple bucks below $90 a barrel, which means that the average American consumer who's filling up their car with gas, you're just starting to see that at the pump now. In addition, our strategic petroleum reserves are not really that strategic anymore because they're depleted. So there's that. But look, if we get a hotter than expected inflation reading, another rate hike could be in the cards here. And this is sort of in the face. A lot of the major investment banks, particularly Goldman Sachs, is estimating that the Fed is going to start to cut interest rates by Q1 of 2024, which isn't that far off, right? I think they're crazy. I don't think that's going to happen in a million years. If anything, we may just get one more rate hike to the tune of 25 basis points here, if we get a higher than expected reading tomorrow. Now, any thoughts on that? Any viewers or any chatters here think that we are at the top of the hiking cycle and we're going to start cutting aggressively? Or is anybody else watching in the higher for longer category here? We have now made it to New York City's Koreatown, one of my favorite places in the entire city. 32nd Street, 5th Avenue. But the two best Korean restaurants in the city, in my view, are on 31st Street. It's called Take 31, and then Her Name is Han. We'll quickly pull off to the side to see one of the greatest views of the Empire State Building you're ever going to see. Right from the corner here. Hey, Connie A, this is definitely higher for longer. I think it is a runaway train. Mark says, I'm sensing one more rate hike by what I read. Randy says, Tom, you are right. The Fed likely has another 25 basis point hike, says Randy. Yes, 1, 2, 3, yes, 1, 2, 3, yes, 1, 2, 3, yes, 1, 2, 3, yes, 1, 2, 3. Says, I agree with you. We might see more hikes, at least one more. I love that username, by the way. 10 out of 10 on that username. You get the username of the night. You officially win the username of the night. That put a smile on my face. I love that. RB says Q1 rate cuts likely because... it runs up with the election. Interesting. Now, okay. Yeah, I think that's important to talk about. Now, to be fair, the Federal Reserve is supposed to be a completely separate entity. I think we all know that, right? Many people think that the Federal Reserve is a part of the federal government. It's not. And there's not supposed to be any influence. Again, it's not supposed to be. There's not supposed to be any government influence on the Fed chair. Now, if you think back to the last administration, there was some major influence there. Our former president threatened to fire the Fed chair if essentially he didn't give in to Mr. Trump's demands. I'm being fair. I call it like I see it on both sides. So what you're saying is there is a possibility that the Biden administration could give the Fed chair a little nudge to say, hey, as we run up into this election, maybe start easing up a little bit. Is sort of that the argument? I don't know. I think that could backfire in a big way. And I'll sort of explain why. If the Fed starts easing right now, you're going to see $5 a gallon across the nation. And I don't think that's a really good strategy. there's no reason for the Fed to ease right now because you already have equity markets pretty close to all-time record highs, right? So the point, I mean, I could see if the S&P 500 was hitting 52-week lows. We don't have that right now, right? I mean, am I right or wrong? I could see that argument to say, you know, if the Biden administration was running around with their hair on fire, to say, oh my God, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500 just hit another 52-week low. We're sitting at the COVID lows. What the heck? This is crazy. We have the unemployment rate at, 7% in America. We got to push the Fed to cut aggressively. Okay, I could see that. But this is not that. The S&P and the NASDAQ has rallied not all the way back to the previous record high, but we're close. We're not too far off, right? So Americans are looking at their 401k balances and they're pretty healthy, right? They're pretty healthy. Unemployment, although we did have at the last non-farm payroll report, we did have unemployment rate tick up a bit, but it's still near historic lows, right? It's an interesting point. We'll have to expand on that a little bit later, but yeah, I don't know. I think that a rate cut going into the election cycle could actually blow back politically for the current administration, in my opinion. I don't know. All right, let me read some of the comments here. Triple G says, Tom, could a soft reading on Wednesday's CPI spark a powerful, much-needed rally for September, or do you think business as usual for slow September? In my view, you usually have intraday volatility around the inflation data, but I really don't think, particularly where inflation is at now, I mean, we've come all the way down from 9.1%. So even a little bit of a hot reading, a little bit of an aggressive reading, I don't think it's going to be the catalyst that makes the market move one way or the other. Historically speaking, September is the worst month on the calendar for equities, right? So, if the market continues to correct, that actually wouldn't be all that abnormal, right? Because we had this really ferocious summer rally. I mean, the summer has been just fantastic for equities. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow are significantly off of their lows. And if that means that we correct a little bit in September, historically that wouldn't be all that abnormal. So, I don't know. If we get a hot inflation report, what the news always likes to do, if you haven't noticed, is assign a reason as to why stocks are up or down. And I want everybody to audit this because one of my good friends, who's a very successful hedge fund manager in Chicago, he told this to me and he's like, notice how anytime you go on CNBC, and I want you to do this tomorrow, I can almost guarantee you CNBC will have an article tomorrow that will say something that follows. I'll wait till the FDNY goes by. So I can almost guarantee you CNBC is going to have an article that says something like this. If inflation comes in hotter than expected and the market is down, the big headline is going to be, market sells off on hotter than expected inflation. So they try to assign a reason as to why the market is up or down on the day. Newsflash, there doesn't need to be a reason all the time, right? So when you read these Market Watch articles, when you read these CNBC articles, and I'm not picking on CNBC, but there doesn't always need to be an exact reason as to why the market sold off. Even if you're watching Fast Money, sometimes they'll say, oh, the market did this because of this event. You can't prove or correlate things happened because of that event. It could happen that Apple sells off 5% on the day because Fidelity rotated their portfolios. If you have Fido going in there and, sitting on the sell on $1 billion worth of stock, that's going to make a dent in the stock. It may recover a couple days later, but the media likes to assign a reason. Well, the reason could be, there's a successful growth stock hedge fund that is now significantly overweight in Apple stock because they have such an earth shaker position because the stock is up so much that they have to trim. Now, when they trim, that position size could be huge, so there's tons of supply coming onto the market pushing down the price. But the media will say, oh, it's because of this specific event. So that's sort of the way I try to think about it. Okay, let's cross here. We have now reached the Flatiron District. We are standing right outside Madison Square Park. Hey, Colton Manning is here. What's up, Colton? Good to see you. Hey, Jay Sully, welcome. Thank you for that AUS Fly Girl. Ukrainian Royal, good to see you. So it's nice to see you. Dallas is what's the weather like tonight? It's very humid. It's a very, very humid night. But at least it's not raining. That's a plus. Hey, CPI 2 is here. This is more like a pause in Q1 of 2024. I just almost stepped on a rat. That was disgusting. Freezer's here. Good to see you. Melissa 2087 says it's 72 degrees. It feels like 85 degrees with the humidity. It's very swampy out tonight. Hey, Theo's here. Good to see you, Theo. Thank you for joining us on this CPI Eve. We were just having a pretty lengthy conversation about all types of prices, food, rent, everything. So if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We usually go live every day starting at 8:30. We'd love to have you a part of the team. Golden Cities has even